everyone. Today is August 26th, 2017, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger.
And I'm Deck Tech.
And this week has all been about Mokuba. He's pretty much the last roaming duelist before we come up to our next big event, which we'll talk about today. It's a pretty exciting event, and it's going to bring about some changes to the game in terms of a new legendary duelist. Everyone who has got to level 40 already can level up a new guy and get his new cards. So, Deck Tech, what have you been up to this week?
I like that intro. That's called foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I've been pretty swamped at work, so I haven't been playing too much PvP. Obviously, when there's a roaming duelist like Mokuba, I have to kind of check every once in a while, and when you're farming, that takes up some time. So that's been taking the bulk of my playtime. But in doing that, I've been able to get all of my characters to level 40. So I will be one of those people who will be very happy about our new Legendary Duelist. I'm always pretty happy about Legendary Duelists, but it's cool to get new cards and skills and stuff, but it's especially cool when I need to level up more people for the gems and other rewards. I've also played in the few PvP games that I have been able to get in. I got to Legend rank, which is cool. I guess I didn't do that last time because I got the special emblem for it, so I had forgotten, but I guess I came up a little bit short last time. And that puts me at 45 wins total for the season. So the modified goal of hitting 60 before the end of the season is looking like that's the way that it's going to go.
You must be winning all your games with such a low volume, and you got the Legend already.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing pretty well. Obviously not literally winning all my games, but I've got a really solid win rate. I don't track my games or anything like that, but looking at my screen now, I have 2 losses in the, I don't know, maybe 10 that it shows or something like that. And I pretty much cruised through Platinum in the past couple days because we talked about it last week, but it seems like a lot of people within Platinum kind of, not to be rude or anything, but the caliber of player in Platinum and the caliber of their collections has generally gone downward. And I think that's a product of this new ranked system where they drop us down one tier and then give us a whole month. And I think that people are just, by naturally playing, going a little bit higher than one full tier within that month. And so it's going to kind of be creeping. Everyone's going to be creeping upward a little bit more easily, I think, as the months go by. And maybe there's going to be a cap at Legend or trying to get into King of Games. But at this rate, it's looking like within maybe a couple months, if they keep the system, then just about everyone who plays PvP is going to be in King of Games. So I'm not sure. I doubt that that's what they wanted. So there might be another change coming up in a little bit. We'll see.
Yep.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm still in Platinum. Speaking of the Platinum people, one example is that some of the Power of the Dark people, which you typically see in Gold, you will see in Plat 1 now, so they're kind of bleeding in there. But I'm still playing Zombie Gemini in PvP, and I still have 1 Gozuki. I'm 3/4 into my second Crimson Kingdom, so I'm still looking for that card. And some games, so I got some wins for free. Someone let me get a time limit win by letting me wait 200 seconds. That's one story I have. But I haven't been winning a ton. I'm close to 60. I'm like 58. But I'm like at 50% or something. I win, I lose, I win, I lose. And also from the store, I picked up 3 Serene Psychic Witches. I've seen some Psychic decks that have 3 of those, so I just got it just in case. And with the event, I got a bunch of SRs, so I have enough stuff to get anything I want upcoming from the trader, so I figured I'd get something.
Yeah, that's a good bet. It looks like a cool deck that, now that I've leveled up all my characters, if I get some more chances to play some PvP this next week, then I might be trying that one out as well.
Yeah, it depends if you bought Chaotic Compliance, and I bought these witches without really buying Chaotic Compliance, so I kind of do stupid things like this, but yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, anyways, we're gonna move on to the news section. And this week in esports, that's what we're gonna call this section now, I guess. There was the Duel Links Pro Tournament, which happened last Sunday. And just for anyone who's unfamiliar, this is an offshoot of the Duel Links Meta Discord channel. So people who follow Decade started their own thing while he was gone, I guess. And it wasn't organized too well. I guess it's their first time, but there were no deck lists. But they had a guy who broadcasted it on Twitch for 7.5 hours. So that's an endeavor on its own, 7.5 hours with very few breaks. And they did it all through dual rooms and stuff like that, but it was just a closed thing with selected members of the community. And the winner was Taha, and he had a Phoenix Fire King deck. We don't really have the specifics, but it's a Phoenix deck that has, like the Fire King Island and the Fire King Yaha. Yes, I forgot what the guy's called, the 1800 guy. So stuff like that. And they said there's going to be another tournament. I think it's going to be happening tomorrow, or it's going to be one of these days, but they're playing another tournament. So look out for that. And then the Duel Links subreddit tournament is back, and it's happening right now, from what I can tell, at 11. So people are dueling right now online. And the first place winner gets $40 in Google Play credit. Second place gets $15 in US gift cards. So whatever currency that would get you in another country, I don't know. It's a best of 3 series, Swiss, and we will talk about it next week when we get the results. Anything to add on esports?
No. I would just say that the Phoenix Fire King deck has gotten to the point where it's pretty standard. So you could probably just look it up on whatever websites you favor for looking up Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links deck lists and find something that's either identical or pretty close to what he likely brought.
And chances are you've probably faced it on PvP. I've faced it a bunch, recently. Yeah. All right. Mokuba is the legendary duelist. I think this is the second time he has showed up. The good thing is he has pretty good rewards. Well, yeah, they're pretty useful rewards overall compared to some other people. And he's actually one of the easiest duelists to farm, so that's a good thing. Some people say he's not showing up a ton, but I haven't had issues with that. Have you? I think he's showing up enough.
Yeah, I've faced him a ton of times. I'm more having an issue with his drop rates is my issue. Which, I don't know if we were going to get into that later, but I've been getting wrecked on the drops.
Yeah, according to Game Press, his rate of platinum packs is 4 to 7%. So even if you get 8, you're not expected to get 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that might be an issue. And there's also been a lot of level 30s, right? I feel like there are. 50-50 at least. Yeah.
Right, yeah. It feels like it's about 50-50 for me. Again, I'm not tracking it or anything, but that's what it seems to be.
Yeah. I mean, the first day kind of sets the tone, and from my first day I got 3 level 30s to start it off, so that's why you get a bad feeling sometimes. And when you're short some of the cards, you keep seeing the level 30s, it kind of sticks in your head, even though the 40s are dropping you 8 gold chests or something.
Yeah.
Alright, let's talk about farming for a little sec. Level 40, there's a whole variety of decks, from expensive to cheap you could farm. All you need is the Paradox Brothers Elements Unite skill. And for those unfamiliar, this is the one where you get to summon Gate Guardian and you only have 500 life points. So you're not at risk of him burning you down. In level 30, he has a burn spell, which would kill you if you had 500 life points. So you can't use Elements Unite for level 30. And also his Blue Eyes is his strongest monster, and that can't beat the Gate Guardian. The only trick he has is negate attack, which would stop your final attack, I guess. That's probably the issue. So make sure you put in a trap jammer or anti-magic arrows. Typically, from what I could tell, I destroy his face down monsters, so typically he uses the negate attack in advance, so you might not even need those tricks.
Another thing is that now that we have good goblin housekeeping,
right,
and what is the Crystal Seer, I think it's called?
Yeah.
The cards that put cards on the bottom of your deck, you can now guarantee that you get to your Trap Jammer before the last turn. And so that's really good for just making sure that there's no way that you can mess up the farm. It's basically, if you're paying attention, it's basically impossible to get less than 8 chests on level 40. We posted my deck list on the shared Twitter account. We'll put the deck lists in the show notes as well. But a few more things is you want to make sure that you draw more than he does, because he starts out with like 4 fewer cards in the deck than you, because you don't have a start in hand, you just have the Gate Guardian, whereas he draws a full start in hand. And one of the ways to make sure that you get the 8K, I don't know if it's necessary. Now we're on the bonus duel reward, so it's definitely not. But one of the last things that I like to do is heal up 600 life and then deal myself 1,000 damage. So I'm at the 100 life, 0 cards in deck, all of that good stuff.
Right. Yeah. And also the point about Good Goblin Housekeeping / Crystal Seer. If you're running Circuit, well, this is more for level 30, but if you're running Circuit, sometimes you get screwed over when the Vassal is ahead of the Circuit or Temple of Kings in your deck. Because then you have to leave him out. You have to leave the Vassal out for a turn or something in defense mode. So that's a big downfall of that farming method. But those cards let you put them back, so... level 30 can be done with Labyrinth Builder, so you send 2 cards back to your deck and you get a wall, a 3,000 defense wall. And the issue is that Hungry Burger can break through the wall if he has Ritual Weapon. So make sure you run 3 times Emperor's Holiday, which disables all equipped spells, and also 3 of another trap. I use Disarmament, which destroys equipped cards. I think you use Ready for Intercepting, right?
Yes.
So that'll
Either
flip
one, they do the same thing.
Yeah, they'll flip his burger to defense mode. And he also runs Poison with the Old Man. In case you're shooting for low life point bonus. I don't shoot for a low life point bonus in 30. But yeah.
Yeah, again, especially with the campaign going on right now, this one was almost guaranteed 8K each time. There's a small chance that something can go wrong with this one, like if you don't draw one of your 6 traps, but it's pretty likely that you're going to be fine. Another method, by the way, is I've heard a lot of people are using Unhappy Girl to farm him at 30. That's what our friend Vegas Canuck was doing, and that's what I've seen like other people talking about. The reason why I was doing the Paradox Brothers is because it's easy to switch between decks, so you can just click on your Mokuba and then see which one he is, and it's quicker that way. And also because I had already gotten Taya to 40 before I got the Paradox Brothers. So they all work fine, and you'll find a couple different deck lists and stuff in the link that we're including in the show notes for the mega thread.
Yep. So make sure you check him every few hours. Don't check him all the time, because then you'll be frustrated about him not showing up all the time. But check every few hours. And also, I think he resets after the reset time. It's in the afternoon here, but he typically comes right back. So check him out. We're going to talk about his rewards now. It includes some of his old rewards. Some of his old rewards are drops and also guaranteed rewards. And you weren't a big fan of them being guaranteed rewards, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been really cool had the new cards been the guaranteed rewards, because it's just a matter of odds, right? If you already played this event once, and then now you're getting it again, that means you have 2 chances to get the old rewards, and or 3, I don't remember if this is the second or third time he's been here, but anyway, you've had these chances to get these old rewards, which means you're 2 or maybe 3 times as likely to get those than these new ones. And that's not even counting things like the odds of getting a particular reward if you've added rewards and whatnot. But basically, the end result is that I love making certain things guaranteed rewards for just playing. I think that's a really good fix to the roaming legendary duelist. But by making those old ones the rewards, instead of the new ones, you're setting up a situation in which it's very likely that players are going to have a ton of the old ones, more than they can use, so those are essentially useless because you just convert them, and not full sets of the new ones, because you're at least twice as likely to have the old ones as the new ones. And that's exactly what I'm experiencing right now. I have like half a dozen of each of the old cards, and I have 0 of any of the new ultra rares or super rares. So it's a...
Wait, you have 0 of them?
I didn't get any of them yet.
Wow. That feels bad.
It feels real bad, man. And of course, since he's been easy to farm, it's not for lack of trying. I check far more frequently than I probably should be, and I almost every single time got 8K. I think once something went wrong and I got a 7K, and then once I wasn't paying attention, I accidentally auto-dueled him and just lost. But other than that, I've opened up probably hundreds of chests, and I've gotten none.
Yeah, I've gotten stuff. I've gotten 1 Frost and Flame and 2 Manticores. So I got a little better, yeah. And I've actually lost the duel. I've had like 2 4Ks because I played like the 40 and the 30 or something. I switched them up or something. But let's talk about these cards a brief minute. We talked about Frost and Flame last week. That was the one we knew was coming. And this is the UR, so I'm not sure if the URs are a little rarer. I think they are. But it's a bit like Desert Twister, but it destroys monster cards, and it's a fire and water attribute, which we seem to think is pretty... It could make some good decks if we get some.
Yeah, that's the key. You gotta get some.
Do you think 2 is enough for a deck? Like, how many do you think is good enough?
I mean, you definitely want the ability to play around with 3, but it might be good enough with 2. I think most Desert Twister decks only ran 2. So obviously we were talking about it last week, how it will probably be built a little bit differently. But I do think that there's some potential to make it work with just 2.
Yep. The next card is Mosaic Manticore, and this is a new card, a beast, 8 stars, 2800 attack. And basically its ability is if you tribute summon it, you can re-summon the 2 monsters you used, 2 or 1, depending on what you do, but the monsters you used to summon it, and they come back, but they have no ability to attack, and they have no effects. I thought it would be a cool way to... I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a card that's being played a ton, but I feel like you could steal your opponent's monsters with Soul Exchange or Jowls of Dark Demise, and you could permanently steal their monster.
Yeah, it's a really cool card. I think the problem with it is just the general problem with the speed duel format and tribute monsters is just that it's a little bit slow to have to get, a couple monsters up. But I really like the effect. It seems like it's like a control/value type card, which is interesting. We haven't seen too many traditional style control decks. Even the decks that are kind of called control aren't what I would normally think of as like control decks. They're just, I don't know, more of like tempo style decks. So it'd be really interesting. I'm looking up the card.
Which one are you looking up?
So the Manticore. Okay. I didn't realize that they're not allowed to attack like ever.
There's the round. Like for defense or something.
Yeah, I thought that would be like for the turn. So that aspect of it's a little bit weird as well. I guess it lets you use it as like a chain, so you can just continually tribute your guys, or they could just be a wall. It'd be really good with a card like Big Shield Gardna, because his effect is negated, so he doesn't get flipped back into attack mode.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I was just thinking you could just use them for enemy control or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, that's cool. That's true. There's a lot of good reasons why you'd want to tribute things.
Big Shield Gardner's a really good point, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some fun stuff there. I doubt it would be tier 1, at least in the current state of the game. But there's some room to play.
And also, it's a beast type, so I don't really know what's going on with that. Like, there's the card Beast Rising. It has nothing to do with this card, but let's just say you have some beast cards. I don't know. maybe. The last new card is one that kind of sucks. It's Dragon Manipulator. It's a warrior card, first of all, and it's a worse version of Jowls of Dark Demise. It lets you take control of an enemy dragon for 1 turn. So, I guess it's okay in the dragon meta if every single person was running dragons, but it seems like Jowls of Dark Demise just does a lot more.
Yeah, it's a weird card for it to... Like, if it's just inherently worse. I don't know why that's in there.
Yeah. Alright. And you've probably gotten that card, right?
Yeah, I've gotten a million of those. Yeah, you're right. It just seems worse. I don't know why that's in there. Again, I guess I was just kind of filling in blanks in my mind, and I thought it would be... permanently gain control dragon type or something like that, like, because otherwise there's no point to this card. Jowls lets you attack directly and lets you target any enemy monster, so it's just clearly much better.
I was just thinking if you were in a tournament and everyone was running dragons, you'd go like 6 deep, like 3 Jowls and 3 Dragon Manipulators.
I mean, maybe. I also
that's the only use, I think. Yeah.
The art looks kind of like Luke on a tauntaun, so there's that.
I thought the dragon was the beast, so that's why it's like a warrior type. It's the guy on the dragon, so it's like yeah. Oh well. All right, so that's Mokuba. He's gonna be around for
a couple more days. Yeah.
So, good luck. Good luck getting the rewards if you can get them. You should be getting at least golden gems though, and maybe dual skills if you're missing them. Alright, let's talk about the new exciting upcoming event, the late August event that gets the new legendary duelist. It's called Duelist Chronicles. And Duelist Chronicles sets sail for the kingdom. And it's all but confirmed that Yugioh is the legendary duelist. I've seen some posts about it. And based on datamined strings, Yugioh is all but confirmed as the guy you get. And Set Sail for the Kingdom follows the, if you watch the anime, the first official season in America in the 4Kids version, which is them going to Pegasus's island to do stuff, to get star chips and go to his kingdom and challenge him. So, I'm thinking it's a PvE thing where it's like an adventure mode in Hearthstone, I think, where you get to play as Yugi. Do you think it will be like that?
That would be fun. I mean, they said it's a totally new style of playing, so I could kind of see that working.
Yeah, you just do all the duels and you unlock them at the end, I think.
Right. That would make sense, because that's kind of how it worked. Obviously, in the show, just because of the episodic structure, that's how it had to work. But that's how it was in the original season, which is the bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! That really sticks out the most in my mind. So, you would face Weevil one day, and then the next day you go and you face Mako, and so I could see that kind of being the way they do it.
So you're going to have to lose to Kaiba on purpose. Like, they're going to have to end that duel somehow. Like,
what can't attack. What have you done, Kaiba?
Like, Kaiba's going to walk up to the ledge.
Yeah.
You get to play Celtic Guardian, and he's going to get blown away by Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon or something. Ugh, that's going to be fun.
I think it's oddly specific and unlikely.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we're excited to see what comes up, but I think that's what's going to happen. And there's going to be a new format called Battle Boxes. And Battle Boxes, I started watching the manga, reading it online. It's kind of funny because there's a thing yesterday I was watching it where Bandit Keith punches Yugi across the room. Like, this is the night before they start the Duel Kingdom tournament. He just knocks him across the room. And then Pegasus, after Keith loses to Joey, Pegasus turns his hand into a gun, and he shoots himself.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyhow, Battle Boxes are basically the same thing as the dual platforms you saw in the manga, except they're in a glass box, and each side gets a field spell. And based on the strings you got on the datamine, there are Forest, Mountain, Umi, Wasteland, Yami, and Sagan. So these are all field cards that are already in the game that just do the 200 boost to specific monster types. Yeah, I don't remember what field Yugi got. I feel like sometimes he just didn't get a field. Like the enemy had a field or something.
Yeah, I don't remember, but within this game, he gets Yami, obviously from the Power of the Dark. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they would do it that way, like kind of based on their skills, or if they would do it for each of. If we're expecting it to be like the adventure mode where you kind of do each battle, maybe you have a different one for each battle. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, Forest would be Weevil, Mountain would be Mai, Umi would be Mako, Wasteland would be Rex Raptor.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense if they have one. I guess it's more of a challenge if they have a field power bonus and you don't. I don't know. We'll see. And it makes sense that it goes along with the thing they said in the beginning of the month where you get to finally unlock someone you've been waiting for. And it makes sense that it's Yugimoto. No question there. And they actually have some datamined skills. So let's talk about the new skills you can get with Yugimoto. The first one is called Access Denied. It can be used when your life points drop below 1,000, so it's really limited. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, neither you or your opponent can normal summon or special summon effect monsters or activate monsters' effects. Can normal summon or special summon effect monsters, so no effect monsters. The skill can be used once per duel. I don't really know how this card's used. It seems like it's a really control skill, but you probably have to fight for the board back if you're down so many life points.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where this would go. There's a few good decks that use like normal types, and for instance my Red Eyes build, because I didn't get I don't have the zombies.
Yeah.
I use just the normal Red Eyes, but I think I would rather set up the whole game using a skill like Restart or Balance or one of those other ones. Maybe even Beatdown, because you get to use that every turn. It's a very common one to use for the deck. I don't know if I would prefer to use this one turn skill that requires me to be losing first and then special summon all my Red Eyes and go in for the kill, protected from Kuribos and Yomi ships and whatever. There's obviously some value to that, but I'm just not sure if it's enough to warrant using that skill over other skills. And of course there's the pretty big downside that you want to build your deck around it, whereas most normal monsters are just weaker than effect monsters, especially if you don't have a bonus like the field bonuses, because you have to use this instead of your other skill. You can't even use that one new fiend that we have that's 1800 attack, which is pretty decent if you have Power of the Dark, because now it's a 2000 attack, but without it, it's just, whatever.
And you probably have to put something in to make yourself lose life points and gain it back, right? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We've seen a little bit of that type of manipulation with the Rexar or Titan Showdown deck. Sorry, Rex Raptor. Titan Showdown deck. So in that one, you have to have less life than your opponent. I think it's
half,
the person, half or less life. So they use a lot of like mirror walls and the
Mausoleum.
Yeah, the Mausoleum, that's a good one, and the Chained Amazonas, whatever her name is, Chainmaster. So there's definitely some good tools to get your life points low, how you want them to. I previously played with the Taya deck that did the same thing, so that you could get the Cyberstein quick victory. Maybe this would be something like that, but it just seems... Now that we're even naming the other decks that do similar things, I think I would rather play the Titan Showdown or the Cyberstein to just do the same thing and do it better. So I don't know.
1,000 versus 2,000 life points is a pretty big deal, I think.
Yeah,
it's tricky. The next skill is a bit like Beatdown, which you mentioned. It's called the Tie That Binds, and the tie that binds is friendship. Until the end of your turn, the attack of all face-up monsters on your field increases by the number of monsters on your field times 100. This skill can only be used once per turn. So the max you can get is 300 attack boost for each monster, but you get at least 100.
Right. So, like you said, it's a good comparison to Beatdown. Beatdown requires you to have bigger guys out, which usually means tributes, but can also mean special summons and stuff. So this is nice. It gives you a bonus all the time, and it can be used in similar decks that just have lots of good kind of tempo 4-star and 3-star monsters, and still have the same feel as Beatdown. In the current meta, I think Beatdown's better because there's a lot of ways to special summon guys who have more than 4 stars.
Yeah.
And also it's pretty important to be able to get over 2,400 attackers since they're so common. But I do see this skill as being one that we'll see some play eventually. Seems like it's a really solid skill to kind of just have as one of the options in your toolbox.
Yep. And the last skill is something that all of us who played the game early on got to play, and this is Grandpa's cards. Begin the duel with 5 Exodia pieces in your deck. So you're running a 25-card deck, I believe. I don't think you can draw enough currently in Duel Links to make this a really good deck. And I think it will win some games here and there, but I think it's the kind of deck that's too dangerous if it's too good, obviously. It's not fun to play against.
Yeah. I think it was interesting because I thought that Exodia would be broken in this game when they first introduced it. And then once we started kind of building decks for it, theory crafting and stuff, we found out that it actually wasn't, like it was actually pretty well balanced. And I am honestly still not sure if they just got lucky with that or if they just did a really good job of balancing it, because with 20-card decks and even just a moderate amount of card draw, you could see it going tits up pretty quickly. But the exchange of not having essentially not having a what are they called, skill equipped, and also requiring you to play 25-card deck, it's a pretty decent downside that makes the deck not OP, and like you said, maybe even bad. We've gotten a few better options now for card draw and stuff than we did before.
Yeah.
And there's still not really much discard. There's a few discard options, but there's not really any like mainstream discard. There's a little bit of mill currently in the meta, but if you build your Exodia deck correctly, that might not actually really matter either. So we'll see how it works. It's like you said, it's one of those skills that they have to always be careful of, because whenever they print any sort of card draw or deck thinning or anything like that, you're like, okay, well, how is this going to make Exodia? Is it going to make it too good? And it's interesting that it's in there. I don't think it's going to be top tier, but I do think it's going to be a deck that you're going to see at least a moderate amount of play, especially like in the lower levels where people are just really excited to play decks.
I'm trying to think about how you would build this deck, and it would be type of like a farming deck. I think the best comparison is you would use a lot of the cards you would use in farming, except your opponent's not as dumb as the computer. That unhappy girl will stay on the board the whole game. You're going to have draws and defense monsters. I think defense monsters could be the only way. But then, like Big Shield Gardener or something, I don't know, like 2,000 defense monsters.
Yeah. One thing that I did last time that we had it around, which worked pretty well, was I was using Bee Eyes Summoner, or whatever it's called.
Blue Eyes Summoner?
Yeah, except it's not like actually called that, because when I tried searching for it.
Wait,
but yeah.
Bee Eyes Summoner?
Yeah, Blue Eyes Summoner. It stood for blue, whatever. Let's just look him up. What's his name?
What's the card?
Blue Dragon Summoner.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah. So he's 1,500 attack.
Yeah, that guy.
Which, at the time that we were last doing this, was only slightly underpowered. Now it's pretty underpowered. but he has the effect that you get to search for a normal spellcaster when he dies. So I was running that guy.
Oh, that makes sense.
And the magical orb, I think it's called Wonder Wand. There we go.
Yeah.
And so what that allowed me to do was I was kind of playing like an aggro / combo deck where I could either use him to search out and draw a bunch of cards, or I could just use him as a beat stick for 2,000 attack, and that worked pretty well. I found that the decks there were kind of two very popular decks when we last brought it, which were, one of them was you just built a 30-card deck that was the best 30-card deck you could build, and just try to kind of ignore the Exodia. And the other one was like going full Exodia, and I kind of liked my middle of the road better. The ignore Exodia version is not going to happen this time around, obviously, because when it first came, everyone had to use the skill for those special duels, and that's obviously not going to be the case. You can just choose to use a different legendary duelist. So we'll see, but it's probably going to be mostly just fully dedicated Exodia decks, and that would make mill decks even more interesting in the current meta. So
I remember I played Gravekeepers with it. Because they're spellcasters, yeah.
That works quite well, too.
Yep. Alright, so that's all there is about Yugimoto we know for now. And we look forward to getting him and playing the event. Here are some of the cards that we know have been confirmed with him. The first one is Gandora, which is the card you get when you unlock him. So you get like a special UR card. So that's Gandora. You should Dragon of Destruction. It's a card that destroys everything, right? That's its ability. It's like a one-turn ability.
Yeah, so these are the cards that were already like the ones he was giving out, right?
Yep. Another card he gives out is Valkyrian, and also the 3 Alpha, Beta, Gamma Magnet Warriors. So these are either the drops or level up rewards. We're not really sure.
Yeah, hopefully there's some more stuff too, because we already have these cards, and I mean, it's nice to fill out, for instance, the magnets. I still don't have a full set of the magnet guys, but Gandora doesn't see any play. The magnets don't really see any play, so it'd be nice if there's a little something extra there, something new for us to play with.
Yep. I think this is just a level up reward, but it's the Dark Red Enchanter. 1700 attack, 2200 defense, 6 stars. If this card's normal summon, place 2 spell counters on it. Each time a spell is activated, place a spell counter on this card when the spell resolves. This card gains 300 attack for each spell counter. Once per turn, you can remove 2 spell counters from this card and discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand. It seems like it could be something, but is Endymion seeing play? Like I haven't seen spell counter stuff.
Yeah, I think 1 tribute versus 2 tributes a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
And 2300 starting attack is
1700.
Yeah, but doesn't he come in with 2 spell counters?
Oh yeah, you're right.
So
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. I could see this one seeing play. Probably not going to break the meta, but if there's a ton of like Exodia decks, then you might as well start trying to discard third hand.
Yeah, that's a good point. Giant Soldier of Stone, 1300, 2000, 3 stars. I think this is the first card with 2000 defense that has attack.
I think one of the Magnet Warriors has a similar stat line, right?
They don't have 2000.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And he doesn't die to 4-star Ladybug of Doom, which doesn't really matter currently.
Yeah.
And the Celtic Guardian, which it's kind of funny in the Bridge series, but he's not going to be played. I don't think.
No.
Alright. We're going to talk about the card trader. Okay, so that's all there is about Yugimoto that we know of currently. And we're going to expect him next week. Card trader inventory. These cards are already in the game as new purchase options. I already got one of them, so we can talk about some of the cards. Doom Shaman, secret rare. It would have been nice if I looked up what the card does. It's a 2400 attack fiend Gemini, I believe. Shoot.
Yeah, here, let me see.
Okay, so it's a fiend Gemini, so you have to normal summon him after you. Yeah, you have to normal summon him to get the Gemini effect, and the Gemini effect is once per turn you can special summon a fiend from your hand or your graveyard. When this card leaves the field, destroy all fiends special summoned by the effect. It's a bit like Ill Blood. From what I could tell, it has that ability where they're all tied to his existence. But the fact that it could special summon from your hand seems really strong. Like you could get like a Dark Ruler Hades or a Helpworm or some kind of big fiend out.
Yeah, I like it. I've picked up 2 of these so far, actually.
Nice.
And I agree, it's very similar to Ill Blood. But yeah, I like it. It's a card that I think has some potential, and I still haven't started like building with it or anything, but maybe I'll be able to play with it sometime this upcoming week.
Oh, mistake. He's a spellcaster, but he brings back fiends. So that's kind of important to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Featherizer is another card. When it gets destroyed by battle, you get to send a Gemini monster from your deck to the graveyard. It's kind of like Gozuki, but Gozuki does it with zombies. And it could work. I've seen it in talks with Phoenix Gearfried, which is a card that's coming. It might be important pretty soon. And Blazewing Butterfly.
Yeah, and it's not just you send one from your deck to your graveyard. You also draw a card.
Draw a card. Yeah. That's huge. Yeah.
You get some of the. There's no card disadvantage from doing it, and it's not just. Well, we're going to talk about one of the ways that it's good with the Hazy Flame Sphinx, but it's also good with the Knight of the Red Lotus, and all the Gemini monsters count as normal monsters while you're in your graveyard. So there's a few cards like Symbols of Duty and stuff that are also relevant.
Yep. I just got Knight of the Red Lotus yesterday, first time ever.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite cards. I really like. I love reanimation effects. I love special summons. He's got both in one. That guy's my boy.
My boy, yeah. Magic Deflector. This is just a rare. It's a trap, and it negates all types of spell cards that are not normal. So the quick plays, the fields, and the equip spells are negated for that turn. It counters enemy controller and Super Rush Headlong. But there's already a trap that negates quick plays, and it's not seeing play. So I don't think this would be seeing play. But it does disable fields like Toon Kingdom. Do you think that's important?
Yeah, I am a little bit confused about how it would work with Toon Kingdom. Does that mean that
you can kill their monsters, right?
Right, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I think it's okay. I don't think it's going to see play, but it does have some very interesting uses. It also it can like counter the Weevil equip card. Forget which one it's called, but the one that Mask.
Yeah.
Right. So there's definitely some uses here. I could see it maybe seeing some play as like a counter card. Especially in any sort of format where you get to have a sideboard, or if the meta shifts to the point where there's just like a lot of very specific fields or equips or something that you need to counter. I don't quite think it's good enough to just counter like as a quick play counter, but we do see a lot of Super Rush Headlong, so maybe.
I'm thinking there's some equip cards that bring stuff back. Would this kill those things? Like Symbols of Duty, for example.
No, I don't think so. Because I think I think Symbol of Duty says when this card dies, then the monster dies. So that's actually part of the effect that you're negating. So I think this would kind of do the opposite, where if you do this and then destroy the Symbols of Duty, then the monster lives forever. But I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. And also it could be something for farming, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a farming option. I think we have anti-magic arrows, which will probably cover most of what this would cover, but I think it's a solid card with a lot of potential that, you might as well pick up. It's just a rare.
And the last new card is Where Art Thou, which is a rare card spell. If you control a face level 1 monster, add 1 level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. During the end phase of this turn, take 2,000 damage if you did not normal summon the added monster or a card with the same name after activating this card. Doesn't look good, right?
Yeah, so this one, obviously, as you recall, we were talking about it a little bit before the show, and these types of effects are called tutor effects traditionally. That's named after magic naming method in which the cards that let you search things from your deck were at least called tutors. And they're traditionally very powerful in card games because one of the major downsides of playing a card game is that sometimes the cards you want are not in your hand or whatever. It's really good to be able to grab them, but this one has such a huge downside that it seems like there's very limited things that you'd want to do with it. And I think the best one that we came up with was Chaos Necromancer.
Yep.
Because for this card to work, what you need is to have a monster that stays on the field and lives, or I guess you could set a monster and then flip it the next turn. So you need something big enough to live, or some sort of protection for it, or some sort of way to summon twice. Because when you play the Where Art Thou, then you want to play the guy that you get right after it. Otherwise, you have to suffer that really big downside. There are a few good level 1 monsters, but a lot of them are like flip effects, so you don't want to... Because if you set a monster, it doesn't count as playing it, so right. You would still take the 2,000. So things like Crystal Seer isn't going to work for you. Sphere Kuribo isn't very good either, because you're taking all the damage you'd be preventing anyway, and you shouldn't have a Sphere Kuribo on the board. So, there's very limited uses for this, and so I don't think it's great right now, but as with any tutor effect, I would be keeping an eye on it. And since it's just a rare, I might pick them up just to have something to play with, but I don't know.
And you like dogs a lot, so...
Yes, I do love me some doggos.
And there are 2 other cards that are in the data mine but have not been released. So these could be released in the next set, or they could be released by a legendary duelist, or they could be released as a new level board. I don't know. But let's talk about these 2 cards. Worm Dominicles. It's a light reptile with 1,700, 1,400 stats, and it gains 300 attack and defense on a flip. So you could either flip summon him or he gets attacked. He becomes a 2,000, 1,700. Seems pretty strong, but the light and reptile don't make it synergize with anything. That's what I get out of this card.
Yeah, it's a solid card. 1,700 isn't great, obviously, so if it gets attacked into by maybe about half of the 4-star monsters that see play these days, it'll die, and you won't get to use the 2,000 attack aspect of it, but I think there's something there. 2,000 attackers are always good, and this isn't the most hoops to jump through. You're right, we don't really have any reptile synergy. We have a little bit of...
Is there a field that helps reptiles?
Oh, maybe.
I don't think there is.
But we do have a little bit of light synergy, so there's maybe.
Oh yeah, there's a field that gives light monsters 400 attack. Luminous Spark. Yeah, that's been out in the last set.
Mm-hmm.
But reptiles don't get a field. Yeah, that's weird.
The Spark lowers their defense too, right, though?
Yep, 200.
Right, so that means he's even more likely to die before you get the effect. So, maybe. I don't...
Run him in a fairy deck for no reason.
Yeah, I don't think it's likely to see play just because we have so many options now that a borderline card like this doesn't see the most play. But I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of eventually snuck into something.
Yep. The other card is Transmodify. It's a magic card that lets you sacrifice a monster, and you could take another monster from your deck with the same type and attribute but one level higher. So you could take a level 4 machine, Dark Machine, and turn it into a level 5 Dark Machine in your deck. It's a really tricky card.
Yeah, I like it. It also, I mean, it works really well with a lot of the various types and attributes. Spellcasters came to mind for me because there's a lot of benefits for certain spellcasters, like dying, specifically the Gravekeepers, the tutor Gravekeeper, and then you can get yourself a bigger Gravekeeper. And there's some
Recruiter to Chief, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a 3 to 5 though. I think Recruiter's a 3. Oh. So we need to find a link in there in the middle. But anyway, I think there's definitely some fun options there, and I agree with you that 4 to 5 is kind of the big jump that you really are going to be aiming for. So you would put it in a deck that allowed you to take advantage of that the most.
Yeah, the options seem limitless for this. I think Goka the Pyre is 5. Maybe. I don't know. But this has a lot of upside.
Yeah.
Yep, so those are all the cards we're going to look at for now. That are either in the game or will be released soon. Another news item is the 50 million download milestone. So 50 million downloads for Duel Links since it launched, and we all got 500 gems. We're not going to complain, but we're excited that the game is growing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really big. I don't know internal stats or anything on mobile games generally, so I don't know exactly how big, but that seems like a really big number. I always like free gems, so hooray.
Hooray, yeah. Maybe we got some... I didn't get a Gozuki out of these 500 gems. Did you get anything? Or you're saving up?
Yeah, I saved mine. So after I leveled up all my guys to 39 last week, there have been obviously no level up gems since then. And so I've just been getting gems from doing events and playing and getting these reward gems, and I think there was apology gems at one point as well. And I'm at like 1,500 or something like that, so I'm doing okay for there being no level up gems. So
cool. Yeah. Another update that was made to the game were various in-game updates. We previously mentioned how you couldn't search for Gemini, Union, Spirit, Tune, various sub-effects that were really difficult. You had to put in weird search words like as a normal to search for Gemini or something. But now you could do that. First of all, yeah, this is in the card inventory, and you could search a section called Card Effect. And they also have abilities like gain life points would be one. It's not perfect though. There are reports of a card called Dice Foon, which is a card I've actually seen in PvP for some reason, and it's beating me. Dice Foon is not listed under gambling. It's a dice card.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like an easy fix that they will maybe get to at some point, but I'm really excited about this as a just quality of life improvement. And because I'm a brewer, I love to have options like this like at my fingertips. It is way more conducive to trying to build kind of off-meta decks, or even just on-meta decks, and just makes it easier to find stuff without having to type in the card-specific name. Anything to make the collection manager better is, very welcome in my mind.
Yeah, anyone who, like me, has a really old phone. I mean, this phone used to be good, but I was going to say it's like some bad phone, but would dread making decks because it would take forever to build a deck. And this actually helps a lot, so.
Yeah.
Another thing is card source. They would tell you how you got a card. So if you went to a card in your inventory, they would say how you obtained it. So that's all there is to that. And also the card trader is less cluttered, so you're less likely to get something by accident, I think.
It is, so yeah, now they've kind of made it so that you can filter out the glossies and prismatics, and you can filter by, well, you could always filter by what you can get tradable and what's not. But anyway, when they added the glossy and prismatic, that was something that we were really excited for and then slightly disappointed in. But one aspect of it that I never liked was that it kind of just totally cluttered up his offerings, because there was like 3 versions of each card. And so it's nice that they've kind of fixed that and made it a little bit cleaner to look at.
Yep. And also, as we alluded to, the bonus duel rewards campaign is going on, so you get an extra 1,000 duel assessment. And it makes it easier to farm Mokuba. You're pretty much getting 8 every single time.
Yeah.
Even when you lose, you'll get 2 or 3.
Yeah, I've gotten my new record of, before it was like 10,000, and now I can get, I think, 10,300 pretty easily. So, hooray.
I've gotten like 10,600 once, like in some farm. I forget what it was, but I didn't take a picture.
You gotta do that, man.
That was a long time ago.
We gotta replace our tweet then.
I'm gonna search my pictures. It's from months ago. All right. And there were also cards that were bugged that got unbugged, and these cards were Toon Kingdom. Toon Kingdom is an important one because the finals were messed up, in that Toon monsters could not be destroyed by Super Rush Headlong, and I think now they can. Naturia. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you've got that flipped. It was that what was bugged was that they were previously, if you killed the Toon monster twice in the same combat phase, that maybe in the whole turn, but if you killed the same guy twice within the combat phase for sure, then the Toon Kingdom could not save it twice. And that's not how it's supposed to work. That was not intended. And that ended up costing Decade one of his games, and which was part of the reason why he did not move on to the finals or whatever it was called. So this is a big change. That was one of the few streamed games, so it was kind of like a little bit embarrassing for the game as a whole, I would say. And so I'm glad that they kind of changed it and corrected it to make it what it should have been.
Yeah, that was priority number 1, and apparently they told them ahead of time that this was going to happen, so they knew the game was bugged, which kind of is embarrassing. Your finals, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is true, so it wasn't like an issue of Decade being caught off guard by it, but it was...
It's like the deck's built in, like your mindset of the deck. You would probably have gone with something else, probably.
Maybe. I think they told them before they were selecting decks and stuff, though.
Oh, okay, yeah. Naturia Hydrangea. Before I could get special summoned for free, I think. I forgot what the thing was. Yeah,
I've also forgotten exactly how it works because I haven't really played much Naturia, but I think the way that it works is you need to activate an effect, and then you can special summon it, and it was working in such a way that you could play a couple cards and not activate their effects, and it would still allow you to special summon it.
Yeah. Even though it's a level 5 monster, basically, yeah.
Right, so yeah, it says what it used to allow you to do was if you summon a couple Naturia monsters, one of them Naturia Maron, which didn't really see any play, and the other one Naturia Pumpkin, which sees a ton of play and is kind of central to the deck. If you summon the Pumpkin while your opponent controls a monster, then it creates it triggers like the activation window to allow you to special summon another Naturia monster, but if you don't have another Naturia monster in your hand, you would still be allowed to use the Naturia Hydrangea special summon, even though you didn't do any sort of special, you didn't actually activate the Naturia Pumpkin's ability. And I don't actually know what Moran does, but I assume that it would be a similar situation in which you play the card and it somehow opens the window for the ability to be available. Yeah. And the game was just confused and figured that you had actually done the ability when you hadn't. So anyway, that's fixed. And now Naturia Hydrangea can only be special summoned as it's supposed to be when you've actually activated an ability, not just had the opportunity to do so.
Right. And the last card, which is the hot button card, is the Hazy Flame Sphinx. And we talked about this card for a while, but let's just talk about it again. 1900 attack and defense, 6 stars. Your opponent cannot target this card with effects. You can declare one type of card type and send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. If it was the selected type you picked, you can special summon one fire monster from your hand or your graveyard. You can use this effect once per turn.
So this is, like you said, it's kind of hot button. The whole community is really excited that it's finally fixed because we've seen a lot of people brewing with it, and it's an exciting card. You were kind of talking about there were 3 main builds that you saw?
Yeah, just going online, there is a Phoenix build, which would go into the Fire King cards. There's a Gemini build with Phoenix Gearfried and Blazewing Butterfly. And then there's another one that uses the skill Beatdown, but it has Sergeant Electro, Molten Zombie, Soul Exchange, Hazy Flame Hippogriff, Super Rush, and Econ. This is someone who got King of Games with this list.
That's interesting. I think what I've seen most frequently is people are using Mai's ability, the Aurora whatever, or Aroma.
Strategy.
There you go. And that allows you to see what the top card is, so you always make sure that your Sphinx hits. And that's really cool because you get the special summons. The benefit is that, you get a free summon is a huge tempo play. And the Phoenix makes sense because you're discarding cards from your deck, so you can use it to trigger Phoenix. The just general good cards version makes some sense because there's some really solid fire cards now with, like you said, Sergeant Electro and stuff. And the Gemini version makes sense because there's a couple of Gemini synergy cards that can pull Geminis back from the graveyard. There's a lot of good Gemini fire types, like the heavy Knight of Flames, and the 2 that you mentioned. So I see a lot of potential here. It's a really cool little interaction, and it's a cool card. It's a 1 tribute card, so I think probably Soul Exchange is a card that a lot of these decks are going to want to run. And unfortunately, that's an ultra rare from, you said Valkyrie?
Valkyrie's Rage, yeah.
Yeah, so I only have 1 of them. I'm going to try, it's on my list of decks to try this upcoming week. And I'm going to try to make it work with just the 1. But I see a lot of potential there. It looks like a fun deck to try out.
Yeah, even DK had said it was his 4th deck. He would have brought it. So, it's a good deck.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Anything else to say this week?
Yes, there's one breaking news.
Breaking news.
Maybe breaking speculation. Reddit, a eagle-eyed Redditor noted that the card shop no longer has the hologram kind of above the card shop, and apparently he's claiming at least that this is a sign that a new Minibox is coming. excuse me, apparently this goes away every time that a new box is coming, maybe because they want to update it and they don't want to accidentally update it before they've announced it or something like that. But looks like maybe we've got a new Minibox coming soon.
It's a dead giveaway. But no. I just wanted to say that. But mini boxes are like for people who dread the release schedule of new sets. Mini boxes are a little better because they're the 80-pack ones, so they're easier to get. That's a good thing about them. It's not a full box. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's why I decided to go with the Flame Tyrant. Whenever we were talking about that a couple weeks ago, instead of the new set. Electric Electric Overload, the big old one. And that's because you can buy a set of 80 over almost 3 times through, and if you get lucky, you can buy it over 3 times through before you get one of the ultra rares in one of the big sets. So there's, I still think that they're releasing stuff too quickly, or at least maybe not releasing stuff too quickly, but not giving us enough gems to keep up with the pace at which they're releasing stuff. But a lot of these Redditors were pretty excited about it, so I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of whales in the sea.
I guess so.
A lot of whales. Alright, we're going to wrap it up for today. You could find this show on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and other things that have podcasts. Check out the podcast and more at our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We have a YouTube channel where you could hear us talk and look at a screenshot for an hour of the show or something. I might pull one from the manga this week. We'll see. Patreon, help us grow, help us play cards, help us buy cards. Patreon.com/duel_assessment. Send us an email at theduelassessment@gmail.com. And you can find us on Twitter, duel_assessment, me at Green Ranger HS, and DeckTech at HS DeckTech.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Catch you next time.
Thanks, guys. See you.